Did you see the latest story that was happening in Nigeria in relation to Chinese? About this store, or is it a supermarket, that Nigerians themselves cannot enter because this place is for Chinese? How crazy is that? Tell me this is not high level of new colonization. And a big question I have is, where do we strike a balance between coming to do business in a country and taking over the country? Where do we draw the line? Hello and welcome to Desta Reacts. This is a channel where we unite the Black community, that is the Africans, the Black Americans, the Caribbeans, and anyone that associates themselves as Africans, as we discuss on different issues that affect us, that are discussed on the internet, and we can continue on those discussions. Today we're going to be reacting a video of this African guy, or at least I know he's Black, who lives in India, or at least by the making of this video they were living in India, and he is going to be talking about how Africans see Chinese and Indians. You know, a crazy thing is the fact that if you come to like a country, for example Kenya or Tanzania or Zambia, these are African countries, but in these countries you'll find a good number of Indians as well as a good number of Chinese. Now, for the Indians, especially here in Kenya, you will find them that have actually continued to stay in Kenya generations and generations, that they are actually now Kenyans, which I find that to be interesting. And there's actually, according to me, there's a big difference between a Kenyan Indian that is a Kenyan versus just an Indian that is associated or considering themselves Indians. So let's hear what they have to say, especially because he has more experience of these cultures, at least the Indians, by living in India.
I think Chinese and Indians are the foreigners who I come across the most in Africa.
So how do we as Africans view Indians and Chinese in Africa?
Okay. Before we continue, guys, yeah, well, this is facts. Chinese and Indians are for sure, but even are for sure a big percentage of the foreigners that you'll find in African countries. But also, let's address, for example, Indians. They are the most majority in terms of population. So when it comes to the people that are immigrating, it will also come to them being more. Which another example with an African country has to be Nigeria. You will get more Nigerian people outside Nigeria. Like, you'll find more Nigerians, or as the people that are Africans that are in different countries outside Nigeria. Anyway, the thing is that the population issue also affects how people are in different countries. For example, I'm assuming if people from Seychelles or Namibia or Botswana, these are African countries that have very few population, you're gonna take some time before you meet a Silesian. At this rate, have I even met a Silesian? Or have I even met, just that I've been to Namibia and Botswana and these other countries, I've met Madagascar. I'm just here thinking about countries that have small population, sort of. Have I met a Mauritian? I think I have. But anyway, let's get into the video. Let's see what they have to say. Oh, another thing before we continue, yeah? Did you see the latest story that was happening in Nigeria in relation to Chinese? About this store, or is it a supermarket, that Nigerians themselves cannot enter because this place is for Chinese. How crazy is that? Tell me this is not high level of new colonization. You know, like, tell me this is not the new control that is coming to us as Africans. But I'm glad to hear that it was actually closed. So let's hear what this guy has to educate us about how Africans see Chinese and Indians. Basically, give us that perspective, and then we can talk about if we are in support or we can do better.
Chinese in Africa. So something which I should point is that all these things which I'm going to say here are personal things. I'm not going to speak for the whole continent. I'm going to speak for Bertie. And also, I'm not trying to bring a difference into saying who is the best comparatively to another one. I'm not doing that. I'm just bringing my point of view of how I view one comparatively to another in Africa. But if we can be more specific, in my country, Congo, the very first thing, let me start with China. I mean, the way I view them and the way I've seen in most African countries. Doing business with governments, like the big businesses, production or factory, like manufacturing stuff, and mines. Okay, I'm saying this because my country, one of the industry which is mostly known for is mines. You will find mostly Chinese in that thing. If I can say Congo or most of African countries going to China, mainly it's because of business or buying stuff which have been made in China. And
Yes, I'm in agreement with you on that one. The number of Chinese that are here and even their expo, their exhibitions and stuff like this is so that they can show how we can do business together with the Chinese. Also, can we talk about how big the import industry is when it comes to the Chinese and getting things in China, bringing them here? So it also makes sense on how the Chinese will be like, I'm bringing those things here. And also, there's a rise on Chinese having an impact on infrastructure in Africa. So when we talk about infrastructure, for example, in Kenya, we have the SGR, which was actually constructed by the Chinese. And then we also have the highway. We also have the Nairobi Expressway that was also constructed by the Chinese. You also find them in a lot of buildings, high-rising buildings that are happening. And it's also very crazy that even some people prefer actually doing business with the Chinese, which you can discuss this in the comment section on what your opinion is on this. The fact that some Africans can for sure trust the Chinese to do their constructive businesses more than they can trust us, basically. Yeah, so
all buying stuff which are being made in China. And of course, Chinese companies are mostly the companies which works with the government on construction of most things. It be of things like roads, most of the things which are done with the governments when they need to construct it with support from outside, mostly they're done with Chinese. So let's take the case of India. Indians, for me, the way I know, are known for doing business in Africa.
I'm in agreement with you. Like if you come to when you come to Kenya, for example, because I can for sure speak with confidence about my country because I've seen it firsthand, you'll find like a whole line of Indians where you will hear of businesses that have existed from further generations behind. You will also hear of not just those generation behind kind of business, but also you'll hear about how they are bringing forth for other future generations to be doing the business here, which I find that to be very interesting. On the fact that Indians have now come, it's a very interesting discussion in these terms that Indians will come and locate and find a whole like region that's basically where the Indians will be. But then unfortunately it's the same thing that's also happening with the Chinese situation. And a big question I have is, where do we strike a balance between coming to do business in a country and taking over the country? Where do we draw the line?
Are known for doing business in Africa. And if I can take the case of Congo, one of the other things which I know Indians for also is their presence, their military presence with the UN in Congo. I don't know about other countries which have the UN in Africa, but for Congo, the UN is present, and the most soldiers who I find around are mostly Indians. And of course, one of the biggest things is that Indians are also known for apparently original things and a good health. Their health system is kind of better than ours, or medicine kind of advanced. When I spoke about business, you will find, if I can take the case of Congo, but I've seen this in most African countries.
I'm in agreement with you. The thing is, on the medical part, I am a victim of going to get treatment from Indians. Like, I'm like, yeah, the doctor was Indians, especially for like eyes and things like this. And also, how many people have you had that there are even Africans that they're raising money for patients from Africa to go to India so they can get like their surgeries, especially for things like cancer. And yeah, I think we can't take this from them. Also, can we take a minute and say that Indians are known for solving problems? That even before you go out of your space to go to India to get your problem solved, tell me you have not gone on Google. Mostly, I can honestly say for Africans, you've not gone on Google and you're like, hey, how do I solve this problem? And you watch an Indian video of someone explaining in their, or even their language, and you take up the solution and you have your problem solved. So in that way, I find them to solve problems, to be efficient in solving problems. We were actually just joking about, I'm trying to code and stuff like this, and they were like, just go and see what an Indian is doing and you'll get a solution.
When I spoke about business, you will find, if I can take the case of Congo, but I've seen this in most African countries, is that you find they have a lot of restaurants around, a lot of shops. I don't know, in Goma I saw it, in Kigali I saw it, in Tanzania, like they have a lot of shops around. They do work in hospitals, they have agency for traveling, for whatever it can be. They are known for, like, when you want to have a good surgery, the better way would be going to India. It's a kind of assured. So these things made me realize that the differences might be that one is doing his role and another doing his own role. We can't mix both of them, or we can say this one is better comparatively to another one. They're kind of all of them trying to make it in their life. Since they're personal people coming, they're all trying to make better their life, and there's nothing to judge them. Somewhere they can be dominant in one part comparatively to another, and these views might change from one country to another, from one person to another. These ones which I just give here are my personal views on how I view Chinese and Indians in Congo, or whatever I can say in most African countries which I've been to. Thanks so much for being here. Catch you next time.
I'm in agreement with you on this perspective of Indians and Chinese, but a part that I don't like that even pokes me once in a while is when in the midst of doing good, a rise of these bad things keep happening. For example, the one I've told you of the control that was happening by the Chinese in Nigeria. Then recently there's a video that was trending, I don't know if you came across it, here in Kenya, where a Chinese was harassing. It's more like the Chinese had employed a Kenyan, and then it was just not fair treatment, and they were just being harassed in their place of work. We've seen this happening as well as in Zambia. Now, I think that surprises me, that is something I was expecting he's going to talk about in his videos, is that we have right perspective, also based on how do Indians see themselves, you know, or how do Chinese see themselves? Do they now see, like, when I come to Africa, that's the place that I know Africans are gonna treat me maybe in a specific way, and compared to how they see themselves in their countries. Let me know in the comment section down below our perspective. How can we improve our perspective of of Chinese, as well as how can we improve our perspective of Indians as they visit our country? It could have an alignment on maybe better means not good, but anyway, let me know in the comment section down below. Do you believe that they are here to help us, or do you believe that they are here for other motives? I'll be glad, and I'll be in the comment section replying to your comments. Also, let's say thank you so much for 1,200 subscribers. Really appreciate. Let's continue growing. Road to 10,000 subscribers. Oh, let's just say road to 2,000 subscribers. So subscribe and let the conversation continue.